Yeah, John, I'm not going to show you the Apple chart. We usually like to talk about a stock on the move and the company news behind it. But, we know the Apple chart over long term since the iPad came out. It's up and to the right. And so when you look at what Microsoft's competing with, that's what they're competing with. Not a stock, but a business, the iPad business. And this iPad business is a machine. If you look at how many units they're selling of this iPad on a regular basis, it's more and more every quarter with every new iPad, and indeed the old iPads, the iPad 2, also selling, and that's part of the interesting part of this story. If you look at the arsenal that they've installed, they've got an installed base of 55.3 million machines out there. That's an enormous amount already of this kind of new device. The price between $399 and $829, that's really important because at $399 gives them a low end of the market that has full iPad functionality. And finally, there's a universe of over 225,000 apps out there that support the iPad where the device has become the way to do a certain thing, and Microsoft is going to have to match all those things that comes out with this device. So they've got a big steep hill to climb. John?
And Corey, it's not just an Apple story. I mean, we quickly forget about Android tablets, but they're selling incredibly well as well. What can you tell us?
Well, they are and they aren't. I mean, there's a lot of growth in this business, but if you look at market share of these companies, or of these devices in 2012, what you're seeing is actually Android's slipping a little bit. Apple's got 63% of the market share, Android 37%, and then the Nook is included in that. The Research in Motion device has, fractions of a single percentage point. So what's going on here is that Apple's actually gaining in market share there, Android slipping a little bit. And it's interesting here also because the Android devices are sometimes made by the same companies that Microsoft normally might go to make PCs with Windows operating systems.
Interesting. What about profit, Corey? I mean, hardware has not been Microsoft's game. They have been a software company.
Yeah, no kidding. So if you look at the gross margins for some sort of typical businesses in the hardware and software space, you can see Microsoft's got 77% gross margins in software. Software is cheap to manufacture. Look at Dell, it does a pretty good job making hardware. A lot of services in that business too, at 21% operating margins, or gross margins, I should say. Apple kind of in the middle there with a surprisingly strong 47% because they charge such a premium for their products. So if this business were to get big for Microsoft, which they would wish for, it would actually probably bring their gross margins down.